So next guest is Rachaporn Choochuey. Rachaporn, hello, ciao. I'm a little bit disoriented, Rasha, because I was expecting, because of the word that you selected, a super chaotic room, but now you are in a very minimal space. Anyway,
I'm trying to hide,
I know Russia since 1999, 1998.
98, 99.
Yes, we met in Japan years ago, and our lives are a little bit parallel because we both had professional works and academical ones. Russia is professor at the Chulalongkorn University, that is one of the most important university in Thailand, in Asia, the most important university in Thailand. And the word she selected is very interesting because it's unexpected from an Asian woman, that is casual. So, Rasha, why for you it's so important during the lockdown to focus on casual?
Thank you, Anna, for having me here. The word that I chose is casual because in this past, let's say, 3-4 months, we were thrown into the situations that basically no one know exactly what's going to happen, what's going to lead to. There are lots of theories. We've been reading here and there, a lot of experts talking about the pandemics, how it would affect us scientifically, socially, and everything. But basically, we cannot be sure of what's going to happen, if we can travel in next month, next week, or next year even. So the quality of being casual is that you have to be kind of adaptive, keep your eyes on what's happening, and then you can kind of go through what happened, what is happening, basically. So you can't really use any framework that you have used in the past and try to adapt. I try to kind of impose it with the situation we are having now. So this is what I'm trying to express towards the situation we are having. For example, suddenly we have this remote works for a long time, but suddenly everybody had to do it. When I said everybody, I mean everybody. For example, in our university, in our office, we have the system. We had a system for, I don't know, like 5 years, but nobody ever used it. Nobody said, how come? How could you compare this kind of video conference as we are having now with the real encounter of human being? But suddenly we had to throw everything away. We have to use it. So this is what when I say being casual, first thing is to be adaptive, to be able to accept what's happened, because we cannot really forecast it very clearly or systematically. I'm still, even for now, I'm still experimenting on how to work, how to teach, how to live in this condition. That, for example, you cannot travel anymore. Okay, we have some works abroad. What do we do? People expect you to travel, but now you cannot. So you have to invent a lot of things to communicate, to test, to make your colleagues who understand what's happened.
So this
So
means that it's very experimental time to
yeah,
find new methodologies, new tools to casual is also casuality. I mean that you
yes.
have to to use things that you can catch around to set up new possibilities of working.
Working and also living, I would say, because it actually, this pandemic actually affects every aspect of your life. It's not only working, but how you live, how you meet your friends, your relatives, and so on. So I think it's very interesting time. It's for me. It's of course there are lots of disaster with a lot of people, socially, physically. But then it is, as a designer, as an architect, it is extremely interesting time to see how everything uh, is going to be developed. It's a super exciting moment, actually.
Yes, I know that you like the lockdown situation. From a personal point of view, me too, honestly. And I have a question. For instance, in the spaces where you live and where you work, what what did you modify in terms of layout, in terms of I don't know, buying new tables, changing the light? What is physically changed?
Basically, I actually, apart from teaching in university, I have a small studio with around 10 people, which is in the same building in the same building where I live. So it's just one floor away. Basically, having a lockdown or not, I'm always here. So I moved from the fifth floor to the fourth floor where my office is. So in the terms of physical change, I didn't change anything. The only two things that I add into um my possession is one microphone because I had to teach, and the computer microphone is not good enough. And then the second one is the iPad with the Apple Pencil because I finally need to use it. I was thinking for a long time if I should use this iPad with the pencil, if it's work, if it okay. Finally, one day, okay, tomorrow you have to use it. So I
Was
just went to the
was
Apple shop to buy. That's it.
was the same for me because to make review with the students when you make a project, how can you
Yeah,
do
you
it?
you
So
need
I
it.
had
You need it.
immediately
Yeah,
to
you.
learn
I
to.
cannot explain by words, and I said, okay, I just draw on the screen. That's the only possibility. So this finally, as I said, that we have all this technology, but we were kind of reluctant to enter the sphere of all this technology. And finally we were thrown in and we had to do, and I discovered that it's not that bad, we could do.
No, 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 it's true because you can delete, you can change
Yeah,
the
yeah,
brush.
yeah, yes, yes,
So
yes.
I went a little bit back on my childhood, and I enjoy a lot to draw
That's
with.
kind of fun, right?
Yes, it's true. Listen, what about the fact that through the media, through the connection we have, mostly we enter in the private spaces, in the
As we are
uh,
now.
yes, we are now, but we are friends, so we can be informal, let's say. But
Uh-huh.
most of the time, I've seen colleagues changing the screen the back behind or to blur the back in order to, I don't know, to preserve the intimacy, or I don't know, on the opposite, to to be framed by something more cool than their own bedroom. I don't know. What is your opinion on this? Because it could be a possible new job to design the scenography behind the people without, like, it's like renders, but
Uh-huh.
you can have a
It's,
new
it's
mindset.
it's it's very interesting because at the beginning, uh, as we all have encountered, you have like you have a meeting like this with people, and they broadcast it from their kitchen, the bedroom, their whatever whatever space, and you started to see where and how they live unexpectedly. And I think at the very first stage, like first few weeks, people didn't really pay much attention on this, and that how you see everything clearly, especially if you teach with a lot of students. You see like 40 different backgrounds, and how finally you see how they live. And it is super interesting from architect's point of view that this is the real space that we kind of live casually. This is the another casual moment that usually we would, in the previous world, I would say previous world because it was 4 months ago, we would meet in in a proper setting, either in school or in office. It's really proper, like everything is formal, everything is serious. You're a professor, I am student, you are architect, I am client, I'm engineers, and this is totally different. Now you enter the person life, willing, I don't know if they're willing, but finally we all entering our casual space. And I think after like the first few weeks, people started to perhaps trying to be back to more formal. So they kind of blur their boundary, being using all this background. And some are trying to represent, if you uh, notice, I try to categorize this in the way that some trying to represent their job. For example, they have their company logos or the work, their works on the back. Some like students, they are more fun. So I have students who have backgrounds of moving fish in aquarium, which is totally, this is really amusing, and so on. So I don't know if this would be a new job, but this technology for the time being kind of enable us to enter the space where we never have a chance to do, even though they try to blur it sometime with success or without, sometimes without success, sometimes with success, because even you blur the background, um, you could hear the noise from the environment, from their home. Like I have a student whom the mother was calling him to have dinner, for example. So I was like, it's time for dinner, so maybe we have to stop the session. Or you have, I don't know, some colleagues have family members walking around, or this kind of situation. Even you blur the background, you cannot really hide this unless finally you would have a kind of broadcast studio at home. I think at the end it might, for some people who need extreme seriousness. For example, if you are, let's say, a CEO of a company, very, very serious guy, or a politician or a minister, you might need a kind of very serious and totally cut off environment to preserve your so-called seriousness. But
This is
for us, I think it is kind of fun, and we are in a profession that people expect a little bit strange behavior or more fluid behavior. So perhaps we could tolerate with the background of messiness. Actually, the angle you have now in my screen, the camera is pointing at the kind of the most tidy, the tidiest space in my apartment. So because you don't see anything at all. Usually, if you shift the camera like 10 degree, you see all kind of mess. that's that is my response to this notion of background.
This is interesting because I don't know, but recently I found that was a very interesting, for me dangerous, but interesting direction where the Instagrammability of the
Uh-huh,
places were more interesting, more researched and designed than the place itself. No, I
uh-huh,
I know places in uh, around the world, hotel or museums, where the designers have been committed on purpose to create places where you could take a picture to publish on Instagram, and the evaluation of the project itself was passing through how many likes you could
you have,
collect. So
yeah.
this the pandemia destroyed completely that approach, and I find very interesting because I remember that I was always fascinated by Lina Bobardi, because in her drawings, in the projects, all the details were very exciting. You could see the socks in the corner, the underwear
Uh-huh,
on the other
uh-huh.
corner, and usually it's not something that we see in design magazines, let's say.
Yeah, yeah.
Design magazines, everything is clean, but it's
It's
an
neat.
unreal, yes,
It's not the real world. It's a
it's an
kind of
unreal world,
polish.
bec- because I think that everybody lives in places messy, with and without kids. We live in messy spaces with our desk, with books, with pieces of papers. This is interesting because also starting from the backstage, we can also say that we design the real life, because
Mhm,
when we focus on the renderings, and
mhm.
we are designing an ideal spaces that are not the truth. No, what do you think about the
It's our obsession. It's our obsession that we, as a human being, I think we try to have this kind of platonic idea of life, of how we live, but uh, actually we will never reach that. Okay, very few of us will be able to do, but in general, life is messy. Life is never really that neat. The modern idea of living is cleanliness, hygienic, order, and everything. But these two polemic position is always push and pull, right? That we design a house that we expect that everybody will live in the way architect, designer, interior designer, furniture designer um, plan and offer. But so far, I have seen very few people in the world could attain that stage, or mostly if they reach that stage, it's mean that perhaps they have several residents, like many houses to live, so that they can kind of divide their messiness in different places, and you don't feel that messy. Or they have like 20 servants to take care of all that. So I think it's our obsession as a designer architect to see everything so neat. But I mean, I this is my experience that I actually have tried to get rid of this obsession in my profession, but I'm not completely successful yet. For example, uh, when when I have to photograph my work, I would try to wait until a few years.
mm, this is
That
interesting.
you have you have traces of how people use the space in one way or another. Sometimes it's a bit too much. We have to uh, organize it a little bit when we arrive to the scene that we have to photograph, and the photographer would say, this is, you think, are you sure that you want to really show this? Okay, I say, okay, let's see, maybe the underwear is too much, maybe we don't want it. But then in some other aspect that it could preserve or could portray the way of life, how people use the space. For me, is more interesting. But I'm not saying that I finally abandoned this idea of modernist architect, that everything is clean, everything is nice. But I'm just trying to um, educate myself as well, that life cannot be that simple or that order. So these actually come back to infiltrate the way you design. That I'm trying to think that how can we design something that when it gets messy, it still look okay.
So this is very interesting because it opened a lot of topics, very interesting. First of all, the relation with the context, because what
Mm-hmm.
you're saying, I believe that you're saying that it's impossible to cut off the context, and this means
Mm-hmm.
that also with the imperfections,
Uh-huh.
and
That's
also. Uh,
yeah.
and also it means that also working internationally and in a globalized world, then we have to work in a specific site and
Mm-hmm.
listening the sites as we listen the client, and also leaving them the space for having their voice. Is like, okay, we inseminate with our project, but then things happen without any intervention of the designer or the architect. This is very interesting.
Yeah, and sometimes unexpectedly, it became even much more interesting than what we decided. I my recent experience a year or two ago, uh, we designed a house for an artist, a house and a studio for an artist, and she was extremely talented, and the way we went to her old studio or house, and her her place was gorgeous without architecture. I mean, the old house was kind of normal house. So we think that, okay, we will leave a lot of rooms. When I say room, mean really literally room for her to intervene after we hand over the building, the house
Mm.
and the studio. And it came out extremely nice, like unexpectedly nice, because the way she could engage with our space, uh, with her whatever artworks, furniture, the way she lives, it's even more interesting, and it's messy because she's not a kind of very modernist, clean, everything full of life. But then it's nice. But this is one of the best cases that I experienced. Some are less um, preferable, but still it is interesting. So little by little, um, I think we as a modern architect, modern, we have these modernist ideas, and we've been struggle of trying to force like people to live the way we want them to, but actually nobody could live in that way. Right?
Even
You
us,
have
even
to,
us.
yeah, even us. And yeah, exactly. But finally, how dare you are to ask people to live in the way that you yourself cannot even perform.
This is true. But I have a question related to going back to lockdown and situation possibly in the next. let's say, months.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Thailand, I heard that today reopened the kindergarten, and
Yes,
the school are still closed, I guess. But
the
you
school and
start.
university are still closed. Yes.
I think I noticed that at the end, quite everywhere, the idea, let's say, the design idea is to create horrible plexiglass walls and partitions to separate people. What is your opinion about it?
I think it is a kind of first reaction of people that, okay, we have to protect ourselves, but actually nobody knows that if this really work. We never have this kind of prototyping period testing. It was more like a spontaneous reaction, and in a way this plexi plastic wrap partition transform a lot of very serious building space into more or less like a refugee camp in a way. It was totally strange to see this, and it if we go back to our beginning, it became a lot more casual. You go to a bank and you have this plastic um, wall dividing between you and people you talk to, and it's done in a very temporary manner, and you feel that, okay, this should this be serious or should it be casual, and it's totally strange, and I think we have a lot of work to do in this extent, that all this plexiglass wall plastic panel is an early stage, but then after this, especially for product designer, furniture designer, we have to rethink of how we handle with all this in a more uh, effective way, more efficient way.
Yes, this is true. But Bangkok is a very crowded, dense city.
Uh-huh.
So how the people are managing the social distance, the physical distancing, because the social, I
You,
think,
you
everyone is
cannot.
connected.
Yeah, you cannot. Uh, Luckily, I don't know, for some unknown reason that we still don't understand. Um, Thailand has very low number of the virus infected, very low rates of fatality. Um, we don't know why, but then one of the hypotheses was that since the past few years we have this very serious pollution, so people are already very acceptable of the idea of wearing masks everywhere. I've been wearing masks for 3 years during the pollution season. So from the very beginning of the pandemic, everybody was wearing masks. So that's the key thing. But then in the term of density, of course, it's still impossible. If you go on a bus, if you go on the public transportation, the trains, it's a bit strange that you have to leave some seats empty, but then you stand next your shoulder next to each other. So, but
Okay.
then everybody kind of properly wearing masks, and if you don't wear masks in the public space, people really look at you.
This is
So
interesting. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Thank
that's
you
how
very
we
much,
manage.
Rasha. Now the time expired, unfortunately. Thank you very much for your the dialogue we had. And I have to leave the room to Professor Biamonti. So goodbye, Rasha. See you soon.
Ciao.
Bye.
Nice to see
And
you. Thank you.
thank you very much.